March is Women's History Month in the United States, and International Women's Day is March 8th. So I'm very excited today to be hosting an all women episode for International Women's Day. I had the opportunity to chat with some really incredible women who are doing great work from a few different disciplines, which is really exciting. I think it's a good reminder that you can always find a role in gaming, even if you don't come from a technical background. So let's get into it. My first guest today is Agnes Larson, who's a good friend of mine from the Minecraft team. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here. It's so nice to see you again.
I know, it's been so long. We were just talking. It's been I think 2 years since we've seen each other in person. I miss Sweden very much, and I would love to give you a hug. But anyway,
yes.
Do you mind? So obviously I'm very familiar with your work, but if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about your day-to-day and how you're contributing to the Minecraft team?
Oh, for sure. So as the Minecraft game director, I am the creative lead of Minecraft, which means that I work a lot together with the team and with the community on the new updates for Minecraft, for example, and the creative direction, creative vision. Also get to do really fun things like Minecraft Live, for example. So it's a lot of different things, but I'm really happy I get to do it.
Yeah, I feel like you get to do some really cool things on the team, just, being in different videos. I know you got to go to China and speak on stage at our summit with some folks on the Chinese team too, which is very cool.
That was very exciting.
I think you have a pretty cool story. Can you just tell us how you came to have this role on the Minecraft team?
Oh, yes. I'm where should I start? So first, I have always loved games. So I started to play games when I was 3 years old, I think. And I started to draw my own games also as a really young child. So I always loved games and game development, but I didn't think it was possible to work with it. Sadly, I didn't think that was a possibility. So I decided to become an engineer. And then my first job was as a software developer on a company, a tech company, but it wasn't in the gaming industry. But then I guess I got lucky. So I met Jens, or Jeb, through a friend, and we started to talk about Minecraft and coding, and Minecraft had already been my favorite game for many years. So he was like, well, you should apply. I'm like, what? Should I apply? I did. I was very nervous. So then I joined the Minecraft team as a coder and designer. Then after some years,
and you were just very good at your job, and yeah.
Well, I love it so much.
Well, I don't think it's luck, and I'm very happy that he convinced you to apply. I feel like a lot of for a lot of people that I've spoken with just over the years who work in gaming, no one thought that this was going to be a viable career, for us 10, 20 years ago. I would have never thought that I would get to talk about video games on a daily basis and get paid for it, right? And I'm sure you felt the same. It's always a personal passion. But how do you feel about, I guess, how has your experience been working in the gaming industry the last, how long has it been now? 5-10 years?
Yeah, it's almost 6 years in the game industry. And before that, I was, in the tech industry.
And can I just ask, how do you feel as a woman, especially a woman who works as in software and actually does have a technical role? Do you feel like it kind of helps you bring a little bit of something else to the job, or how do you feel?
Yes, I think diversity in teams are always so good. There are many different kinds of diversity, and in many tech teams, I definitely. When I joined Mojang, for example, I was the first female developer. Now there are more, which is amazing. And I actually noticed the difference. I remember just maybe 2 years ago, I often were the only woman in meetings, and now I even have had meetings with only women. It's what? It's much more women now, which I think is great, of course. Bringing in diverse perspectives is always good. And for example, also when developing a game, that can even be about how you enjoy playing the game, how you enjoy playing Minecraft. And then if you have people in the team playing in different ways, that's really good.
That's a good point. Yeah, I feel like the studio has been looking at, initially it was just creative and survival, and now we've been looking at a lot of different ways that people like to play and enjoy Minecraft or consume Minecraft content. And, I think last time I had checked, our player split was somewhere around like 60-40 male female, which is pretty great for a game. But I think it's also important that we have a studio that represents the diversity of that community and can kind of keep an eye out for that part of our player audience, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel about do you have any kind of like advice or tips for women who want to break into the gaming industry but aren't really sure where to start?
Yes, I think actually one of my favorite advice to give to others is that you should dare to apply and you should believe that you can do it. Because, for example, I did not. I don't think I would. It would at least have taken me many more years before I would have dared to apply to Mojang, for example, if it wasn't for Jens who told me that I should. So that's one thing, because I think research also showed that for example, when women read it's called job ads, and it might be this list, like you should have this many years of experience, and then many are like, oh no, but I don't fulfill all of this, I will not apply. But you should apply if you believe that you can do this job, because often you can, even if you don't have as many years experience as it says. So that's like one thing, believe that you can, because you can. Like if you're super excited about something, you're also probably going to be really, really good at it.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of women do kind of shy away from applying to things a little bit more often than men because, we're not really sure we meet the qualifications. But yeah, you should absolutely just always go for it. I always try to tell my friends the same thing when they're like, oh, I'm not really sure. Well, switching gears, you're doing some really great work on the Minecraft team. So how does it feel working on Minecraft? What do you like about it?
Wow. So Minecraft has been my favorite game for more than 10 years. So I'm very happy that I get to work on it. And I think one thing is, of course, it's my favorite game. It's so fun. It's so creative. And I get to tell my own stories. And then it's fun to also make the game better for everyone. But then another thing I really love with Minecraft is that we are trying also to make the world a better place. For example, when we added bees to Minecraft, we were like, oh, but then we can take the opportunity to educate a bit about sustainability in a fun way because it's a game. And I think we always think about that, like what can we do to, of course, add as much play delight and joy as possible, and at the same time make the world a better place. And that I think is beautiful.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's one of the things that I also really, really enjoy about working on Minecraft. I feel like I'm having a positive impact. Like it seems like the Minecraft team always wants to help out from different like sustainability, cultural initiatives, like taking a stand, things like that, which is lovely to see. All right. Well, can I ask what's next for you? How is development coming these days?
Well, now we are working a lot on the wild update, of course. So that is exciting to see, like all the features actually starting to get playable and really, really, really fun. And then, as always, there's so many things we want to do with Minecraft, and we have so many ideas. And I cannot tell you, but we already have, we kind of know what's going to happen after Wild Update 2, and that's exciting. So,
yeah,
lots of fun.
I know. I can't believe Minecraft Live is still, many, many months away, but I always look forward to seeing you on stage and talking about the next game update. So I hope we'll see you at Minecraft Live again soon. But otherwise, I think we'll move on to our next interviews now. So thank you so much for joining us, Agnes. It was really nice to catch up with you.
Yeah, thank you. It's so nice to see you again.
I'm very excited today to welcome to the show a good friend of mine on the Xbox team. We've been working together for a couple years. We even got to meet in person last summer in New York, and we had Korean barbecue, and it was a lot of fun. So please welcome to the show Jen Panettone, the head of Xbox Social Impact. Yay! Hi, Jen.
Yay!
It's been too long.
How are you? I know, it's so good to see you.
See you. I'm good. Next time I come out
Yeah,
to Redmond, maybe we can get together. But yeah, thank you so
absolutely.
much for
Not even a question.
yeah, thank you so much for joining the show. I know you have a very busy schedule. But first, I'm curious, what have you been up to lately? What have you been playing?
What haven't I been playing? I mean, there's been so many good releases in the last little bit, and it really depends on how I'm feeling. Am I playing Dying Light
Mhm.
2? Am I playing Elden Ring? Am I playing, there's just so much. Like, I think this is actually the first time I've ever had the problem of I have actually too many games. Like, I know everyone kind of
Mhm.
jokes about that, but I'm actually there right now. So
Yeah.
I'll say for now, I'm almost done with Dying Light 2, but I'm playing 6 games right now.
Goodness. I'm not really sure how you do that. I feel like if I do that, it's like 2 months in between me playing another game. But how do you like Elden Ring so far?
It's hard. It's a very
Yeah.
hard game. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's fun. It's interesting. It's just interesting being frustrated by a game, but it's also like you want to finish it. I've never actually been more motivated, so
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah, nice. Okay, we can talk more about that later. I'm very curious about Elden Ring. I still haven't gotten around to trying it yet, but anyway, sorry. So thank you for joining the show. As I said, we've been working together the last like year and a half or so, 2 years. So can you just tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about your work, the work that your team has been doing?
Absolutely. So as Rebecca mentioned, I'm the head of social impact, and what that team does is we oversee all of the marketing for cultural campaigns. So if you see Xbox celebrating International Women's Day, International Day of the World's Indigenous People, Black History Month. My team works across the entire business to centralize all the different amazing activations going on across the business and providing a few different marketing places for folks to go learn about, how to celebrate these moments along with us, things that you can go do, things you can go learn. So there's that element of what the team does. We also do all of the charitable partnerships and fundraising. So if you've seen, any of the live streams we do for Twitch, Extra Life, or any of the rewards programs that happen for, a numerous amount of reasons, our team drives all those. We have amazing nonprofit partners that we work with. It's honestly probably one of the joys of not even just my life, but to be able to leverage the video gaming community and video games in general to make positive change in the world is just a dream. And then sustainability as well. So if you see sustainability marketing coming out or any of that, my team deals with that as well. So it's all, I like to joke I have the most wholesome or wholesome role in the business.
No, but honestly, you do. I mean, you kind of have a role in all of the good things that Xbox is trying to do and give back to the community, which I love. And so I feel very fortunate to have been a part of that work with you too. Helping out with some of these cultural moments and just the different initiatives Minecraft is
Mm-hmm.
doing. So it's been very
Oh, yeah.
rewarding. It's been a very great aspect of the job. So how did you get started in the gaming industry? Obviously, you're a gamer.
So yes, I some of my earliest memories are actually video games. I know I've told this story before, but I have an older brother, and people would buy me dolls growing up, and he'd throw them away because he needed a play or two. But fast forward to getting in the gaming industry, in 2015, I decided, I really want to work in video games. It's been a passion for me forever. And I applied to Xbox and got a position on the policy and enforcement team, or now the Xbox safety team. So I was working over there developing features to keep people safe and promote safety on the console. But then as I was working in that space, I saw that there's a huge power behind the gaming community, and that the gaming community really wants to be stewards of the world and make positive change. And so I went to a few different leaders across the business and said, "Hey, there's a real opportunity for us to work with the gaming community to make positive impact in the world." The role didn't exist, the team didn't exist, and I just totally didn't expect anyone to say yes. And the leadership here is fantastic, and they said, "Okay, go make it happen." So of course, after panicking for several days, started figuring out what this team needs to go do, how we can work with, different partners across the business, across the industry, across the community. And here we are today.
So I know that your team has evolved quite a bit over the last couple of years.
Mhm.
Like initially it was the social good team, now it's social impact. When exactly did you get the start of this team? Like, cause it has changed quite a bit for the better.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say probably the beginning of last year was when we really kind of formalized and started. Previously, when I was in engineering, I went from being on the policy and enforcement team to the gaming for everyone team. And that's where I really kind of just hunkered down for a year and figured out, how do I make this work? How's the best way to make this work across the business and make sure we have hyper inclusion of so many different teams and perspectives and people to make this really come to life in an authentic, genuine way. And then we had a really good program there, but then we decided, this actually needs to go to marketing because this is ultimately, that's where a lot of the power is in communicating all this out. Mm-hmm. And so we got a rollover on marketing, got a placement. So I went over to marketing about summer of 20, I don't even remember. It's been, the last 2 years have felt like 2 years and a decade at the same time.
Yes, we can all relate to that.
Yeah, 100%. So it was actually summer of 2020. And then I went over to marketing. And then beginning of last year, when you and I started working together on this stuff, that's when it really became formalized. And the team, as you mentioned, it does evolve and it does change just because there's so much going on and so much more that we can go do. So I always consider this team kind of an evolving program, an evolving team, if you will, just to ensure that we are being as inclusive, as proactive for making positive change that we're able to.
Yeah. I mean, just a little bit of inside baseball too. Like, I've been working with the Minecraft team for the last 5 years, something like that. And there were always people who, thank you. Like, we always wanted to be like, okay, like, Hispanic Heritage Month is coming. What can we do? Like, what kind of guidance do we have? And I think that there were all these other teams across the studios who want to activate for these moments. They want to support the community, but then there isn't really anyone to kind of reel them in and say like, okay, let's like work together on this, or let's all centralize on this day, or things like that. So it's been great having your stewardship in making all of these moments come to life. I think we really do need someone to kind of organize everyone. Otherwise, it's just all these like studio people going wild. But that's very cool. I guess, do you have any like, how would you describe the environment, like working on Team Xbox? Like, was Xbox the team that you always wanted to work on? Like, were you a big Xbox gamer before this?
Yeah, I actually have a screenshot of this social post I think I did back in like 2011 or 2010. And I had just gotten done with a PAX and I was like, okay, I am like manifesting this. My future career needs to be in the gaming industry. Like, I love video games. And of course, like, no one liked it because I don't know why.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I think I had like, I don't know, a couple hundred friends on social at the time. And then it's always been something I wanted to be passionate or, was important to me. And specifically the intersection of leveraging video games for good. That's always been kind of a passion of mine. But again, it almost kind of comes down to representation. Like, there weren't many roles. I think there were one or two in the industry at the time. And I'm like, well, how do I go do this? And so when I joined Xbox, I always kind of thought I wanted that role, but it never happened or I never saw it. And then finally, I just kind of, as Rebecca knows, I'm one of the most patient people you'll ever meet. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to see what happens. I'm definitely a person who you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I love asking questions, probably a little too much. And so I just asked the question and said, hey, can we go make this happen? And that's how really this came to life.
Yeah, I think I would describe you as patient for sure, but also a go-getter. Like, you're not one to really like wait for this to be handed to you. I think that you did a great job in like bringing this team forward. And then I feel like every moment we have, like, there's always some kind of learning or thing that we can do better, which I really, really appreciate. But also, I just love that your posts in 2011 and 2012 were so wholesome. I'm pretty sure mine were just about like watching Jersey Shore and eating instant noodles. So that's very cool. But I mean, I think a lot of us never really thought that like a career in gaming was so viable unless you were a developer or an engineer. I mean, obviously, I don't have a technical background, and here I am anyway. I mean, do you have what kind of like tips or like guidance would you give for people who want to break into the gaming industry or work for a publisher or a company like Xbox?
Don't be intimidated. Like, to your point, I know there are so many people who they think they have to have a technical degree. And by the way, all my posts, I think that was the one wholesome post. The rest of my posts that time, and actually still to this day, are about my pets because they're actually way cooler than me. You can see one right there.
We're not mad at it. We like the pet posts.
Exactly. Yeah. They're a lot cooler, but don't be intimidated. There's so many ways you can get involved and you don't need a technical degree. I have a linguistics degree. And even then, sometimes I wonder why I have a linguistics degree, because my ability to word correctly or even spell is sometimes debatable. But there's just really kind of figure out, what would be important to you? What is something that you want to go do? Do you want to work in video gaming? Yes, no. Do you want something technical? If so, go study something technical, like go take a course, see if that's even for you. Some people I know want to be devs and they take one course and they're like, absolutely not, hard pass, right? So then just really exploring the breadth and depth. Like there's roles in studios, there's roles in accessibility, there's roles in marketing, there's roles in business development. There's actually so many things that make video games come to life. And I think that's really honestly one of the most exciting things about this, right? There's just so many different ways you can leverage your strengths and skills to really make an impact in video gaming.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it was the same for me. I was looking at boring jobs, and then I had a professor tell me, follow what you're passionate about. And I was like, well, I really like video games. I've been playing a lot of Halo. And so here I am. I also think that I think knowledge of the gaming industry and just the public perception of the gaming industry has changed so much in the last couple of decades. Yep. I mean, you and I have seen this. I think gaming has become a more welcoming place. Like, how do you feel about the gaming industry now versus 2015 when you first came in?
I would absolutely agree that there have been many, many, many steps toward inclusion. There's been many steps towards making this a more approachable, welcoming place. And obviously there's always a journey, and it's always something that we will continue to strive to do, kind of going back to the point of, these are always evolving things. Like I never consider anything final. So there's always ways, I think one of the ways to think about it, it's never if it's not broken, don't fix it. If it's not broken, how can I make it better? How can I make it more inclusive? How can I make things more approachable or welcoming? That's how I really look at things, especially in the gaming industry.
Yeah, there's never two similar days in the gaming industry. Things are always changing. Something new is coming out. Something big is happening. Okay, absolutely. So I want to get to the meat of it. So what can you tell us about Xbox International Women's Day, Women's History Month plans? Obviously, this is the special episode airing on International Women's Day. So what's in store?
So much. We have so much. What I will say is I can give a very, very, very high level overview, but you will notice that we have a Xbox Wire post coming out. We'll have some social posts going out to kind of support that and drive people to that main place. That's really where we centralize all of the activities happening across the business. We do this because we want to make everything really findable and discoverable. And then that way people can basically just go down the list of, hey, I played this game, let me go check it out. Or, oh, this looks exciting, let me go try this out. But, we have an amazing post that's been penned by Louise O'Connor, who I think I'm probably her number one fan. She is the executive producer on Everwild. I met her at Grace Hopper and I'm literally obsessed. She is amazing. We have a lot of really cool stuff coming out. I think one of the things I really, really love, and we've actually been working across the world for this, we have a mentorship program coming out specifically kind of to things that you and I have been talking about of, are you interested in working in the gaming community? If so, here's a mentor that you can sign up to, get one-on-one time with on, hey, you can talk about your skills, your strengths, and then how can you work with this mentor and get some advice or some guidance on how to potentially approach working in the gaming industry. So that to me is incredibly exciting because we've been working very intentionally across the world, people with different languages, people with different skills, backgrounds, just because it kind of all comes back to that theme of there's no one way of really making this happen. So that I think I'm really excited for. We also have our amazing, amazing family at Bethesda and ZeniMax included in that as well. So we really wanted to make this a big family effort, if you will, across the world, across studios. So I think that to me is really exciting. A lot of the studios have some new lessons coming out. You have some esports tournaments. You have ambassadors coming out with stories of women in the gaming community and, talking about what it's like. I don't want to steal the thunder of the Wire post because I do believe it actually, I love it, but I also, my team helps drive and centralize this stuff. But I do think it is a good read and I would encourage everyone to go check it out.
Yeah, I think our Xbox Wire editors, like, they review all of the posts for, like readability and searchability and things like that. And then we get around to these posts and it's like, it is so freaking long because there's just so much that people like between like, the movies, the TV, like the different like activities of the studios, like you mentioned, like mentorship opportunities, like different like social programs. There's just so much going on. So yeah, I plus one to that. Highly recommend people go check out the Xbox Wire post. It's there's a lot going on. Yeah,
also,
I guess
don't forget we have rewards on console actually. So if you have, if you have a desire to go spend those Microsoft rewards points and support nonprofits supporting women in gaming and the gaming community, feel free to check them out. We have some nonprofits that are both local and international. Again, bringing in the international theme. We've got some really cool stuff. So yes, go check it out.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people even have rewards points available and they don't even realize it. So absolutely go check it out. Yep. See if you have any, put them to good use. Love to see more women in gaming and women in tech. So whatever we can do to help.
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, let's see. So yeah, I mean, there's rewards. Any other final words or like thoughts about how people can join us in celebrating at Xbox?
In joining us, we have a bunch of programming on the Xbox Twitch channel, so make sure to tune in for all that. You'll see some announcements on Twitter. Got too many things starting with T. But we'll have announcements of that on Twitter, so you can go check it out and stay up to date. We'll have the nonprofits that we're supporting coming on. We have, women content creators and streamers coming on and joining us, games that were developed by women studios, a lot of really cool stuff. So if you want to, just tune into those. That's another way to do it. Again, rewards is a way to help out, but just, go see what speaks to you. Go try something new. That's kind of probably, I would issue a challenge of, if you haven't played Minecraft, which I don't know if there are people who have not played Minecraft at this point in time, but if you haven't, exactly. But if you haven't, Minecraft has this amazing thing that we're announcing for International Women's Day. I'm not going to spoil it because I think it's pretty awesome. And again, you should go read about it. There's esports tournaments. You can go spectate on those, just really cool stuff. Or you can show your support with the new profile themes and gamer picks and avatar items that we made with the awesome visual ID that people came together with. I love it so much.
It is really cool. I love it too. All right. Well, thank you again so much, Jen, for joining us. It's always a pleasure catching up. I kind of want to talk about Wordle after. Let's talk about that offline. I know you mentioned linguistics. I'm like, I want to talk about Wordle. So, but yes, thank you again for joining us. Yeah.
Anytime.
It's my pleasure today to welcome to the show self-proclaimed blonde nerd and co-founder of What's Good Games, Brittany Brombacher. It's so nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you too. I know the e-meet is what it's been for the past couple of years.
Yeah, I feel like we've probably like passed at different like events, and I feel like I've definitely seen your name on emails before. And I've been watching some of your podcast episodes, so I'm really excited to talk to you. I've been like kind of giggling as I've been like listening to them and like getting ready and stuff. So,
yay!
But my very first question for you before we get started is, I love to meet fellow whiskey aficionados. So I'm curious if you have a favorite one that you'd like to share with us.
Oh, man. So my favorite go-to on any like rainy day is just good old Maker's Mark. You just can't go wrong with a good old Maker's Mark.
Agreed.
I have been diving into Scotch a little bit lately. Maybe it's because, we're getting some of that spring shower here in Western Washington, and just a nice glass of Scotch just really helps you deal with it, But I would say, yeah, Maker's is my go-to for now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you
Makers
can't go
is
wrong.
a really good one. Yeah, if someone shows up to a party with a bottle of Makers, I'm never like, oh no, Makers. It's always like, it's nice.
No,
but...
I mean, you can't see it off the camera, but I did show you behind the scenes, but I do have a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label that I have been nursing. That's a really good one too.
Yeah, it's good to keep one of those handy. I had a bottle of tequila back in my desk in Redmond when we were still in the office, but no one really needed to know about that. So
no.
That's very cool. I'm also a big Scotch fan. The peatier and the smokier, the better for me. Which isn't why my
what's your
voice
favorite
sounds
Scotch?
Like this, I like the peatier the better. So like Islay, so any like a nice like Lafroig or like Lagavulin is really nice. But my favorites are probably like Japanese whiskeys, which are kind of similar to Scotch. Yeah.
Yeah. I've just been also getting into that too. The Centauri has been something I've been trying. Real good.
Nice. Very cool. All right. Sorry. I'm like total. I'm just excited to talk to someone else about whiskey. So
I live for that.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. So let's get down to business. So, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your work and kind of what you do in the gaming industry?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I am a co-founder of the What's Good Games podcast, and we launched in 2017. And the original founders were myself, Andrea Renee, Alexa Ray Correa, and Christine Steimer. Christine Steimer and Alexa Ray have since left the show to pursue. Can I swear on this? I'll just say kick butt.
I don't know.
Kick butt opportunities. I won't say the ASS word just in case we're keeping it PG here. Anyway, they're just kicking so much butt over in other opportunities. Timer is over with Riot and Alexa's over with Sledgehammer, but I digress. So it's just still Andrea, Renee, and I, and we launch episodes every Friday. And we like to think that we are an upbeat podcast about video games in the sense that, we want you to leave our show feeling a little happier, a little refreshed. Like, don't get me wrong, we're not afraid to criticize heavily if something needs to be heavily criticized on our show, but we like to look at things from a different angle instead of just saying things are bad. It's like, well, things are bad because of this, and this reason. We like to incorporate audience participation. And so our shows, consist of the news of the week. And then the next segment is what we've been playing. And then if we have a lot of fun guests on, then we talk about our guests and introduce them to our audience. So that's primarily what What's Good Games is. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I listened to 2 podcasts today. One was yours. It was an episode where you guys were talking about like NFTs. And then it was kind of a stark contrast because earlier in the day I had watched or listened to this podcast about like, ironically, it was a podcast about monitoring podcasts for like safety and like misinformation and things like that. And that one was it wasn't boring, but it was a little bit, monotonous. It was like, okay, they're bringing on, this scientist and this expert now. And it's like, okay. But then I listened to yours. I was like, oh, this is like really upbeat and it's really interesting. And these women are really well spoken. I was like, I'm going to learn something from them. So it's very cool to see you guys thriving. So I love it.
Thank you.
So I know that you mentioned earlier that your background is a collection of, I guess, like things you've been like grabbing over the years. So I'm assuming that you've been a gamer for quite a while. But how did you actually break into the gaming industry? And like, because you couldn't have just started as like a podcaster, right? Because podcasts have only been around for the last so many years. So how did you get your start?
Yeah, so like you said, I've been playing video games for a long time, and my grandma actually is the one who introduced me to video games. And bless her heart, she's 80 years old and she still plays video games all the time. I just love her.
Wow.
I always have to plug her when I can. So I just come from a family of gamers. My grandma, all of my aunts play, and so all of the women in my family have always played games. So when it came time for me at the ripe age of 5 years old to hop into games, I never had this like conception of like, oh, I'm a girl, I don't belong here. So because all the women in my life played. So I just played my entire life. And then when I turned around, well, I guess I graduated from high school. I went straight out of high school to working for the Department of Corrections. I didn't work in the prisons or anything. I was more of an admin clerk, right? Like such a weird contrast. And while the work there was fulfilling, it wasn't getting my creative juices flowing. And it was around this time that I discovered that I wanted to be in the game industry some way, somehow. And so at that time, IGN had their own community blogs that they would host on their website. So I started my own community blog there, which was fun. And I did that for a couple of years. But what it really taught me is I love blogging about video games. I love talking about video games. I love belonging to a community of fellow gamers I can talk about and share my passion with. And this small knit group of bloggers, community bloggers, and we road trip to the very first PAX East together. We started podcasts together. Like we had so much fun. But then I quickly realized that if I really want to break into the industry, I can't link someone to my community blog on IGN. I should probably start my own website. So that's what I did. So in 2011, I launched blondenerd.com, which is where the Twitter handle comes from. And I did that for a couple of years, started earning media passes, to cover PAX, to cover E3, to cover San Diego Comic-Con. Really loved it. And then I eventually in 2013, and I can't say I recommend that everyone does this unless you really have your stuff together, I quit my job at Department of Corrections and I pulled out my retirement and I found a part-time job and I had really cheap rent on my back then apartment. And I was able to float myself for many years until we started What's Good Games in 2017. And now, we're partnered with Rooster Teeth and we're able to monetize with our in podcast advertisements. So it's been like a whole journey since 2009, but that's like the TLDR of it. Yeah, I've just been very fortunate. It's been really fun.
Yeah, I think it's cool because we all kind of, I think at least like our generation, we kind of grew up thinking like, okay, at least for me, especially coming from like an Asian family, is like, okay, I need to either go to medical school or law school or, you know, I need to work in finance or one of these things. I don't think that any of us thought that we would be here 20 years ago, right?
Oh, yeah. No, and I think that's one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give someone is it took me from 2009 to 2017 to make like a steady source of income from this industry. You know, and I'm talking, and I say steady, like it's great and I'm fortunate, but it's not like I'm making bucket loads of money doing what I'm doing. But what I have is the passion, right? You know, we have our supporters on Patreon, we have our ads that we monetize, but if you hop into this industry just because you want to make a quick buck, I mean, talk to anybody who works in this industry, really, like it's not that easy. You have to love what you do and you have to have the passion. You know, when I was working for corrections, I was commuting 3 hours a day back and forth to my job. I would come home and start working on my website. And I did that for years and years and years because I loved it. And yeah, like it's just simple as you got to put the work in. And if you really love what you do, it won't feel so much like work. It'll be fun. And the doors that open along the way are just, it's amazing. Yeah. Stop being preachy, but like that's, that's it.
It's not preachy. I think it's nice to talk to other people in the gaming industry who are passionate because I didn't really feel like I found my tribe until I started working with other people who were in gaming. It was like, oh, you're also very nerdy and we can talk for hours about XYZ game or anime or TV show, you know? So I think the gaming industry, like it is such a fantastic place to work for people who are passionate. And, you know, there isn't really like, unless, I mean, there are some really traditional paths, like, you know, you can go to school and like learn how to like code and then become a developer. But then there are other like very non-traditional paths, like maybe yours or mine. So I feel like there's no wrong way to get into it. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, you just have to have the passion, and that's what it comes down to, honestly.
Well, let's see. So you've been in the gaming industry for a pretty good amount of time now. I won't say a long time because I feel like that's insinuating that you're old or something.
No, it's okay. But you know, I feel it. It's fine. You can call it what it is.
But how would you say that the gaming industry has changed from your perspective from when you first started working, you know, with the IGN like community blog to where you are now?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think what's been the biggest changing factor that I've seen has been the introduction of social media. I think what we're seeing, and I mean, this could apply to the entire world, but like just to focus on video games, for example, you know, when I first hopped into the industry, all eyeballs were on me because I was a woman. And that was still like a weird thing for a lot of people to see, you know, someone who was passionate about games, who was hustling to like break into the industry. Yeah, oh my God. And she's a woman too. Wow, that's great. Which I'll admit it, like that helped my career early on, right? Because then you're kind of like standing out. But what I love to see now is because the introduction of social media, and I think just there's more platforms for people to get out there. It's not a big deal anymore to see a woman run podcast or a woman ran website. And that's talking more about, I think, like the cultural side of gaming. And I think that has just been really fantastic. And I love that I feel like there's just so much support and acceptance for everybody in this industry. I mean, it needs to get better, but I feel like we're making some really good steps. And I think a lot of different industries can look at the gaming industry and take a lot of notes in terms of the acceptance and, you know, I think for the most part, those who are in the industry treat each other incredibly well. Of course, you have your outliers in other major communities. We all know it. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. But for me, I think that's just been kind of the biggest thing, and how the communities can rally behind something if something needs to be changed, or if there's maybe a sensitive topic that's not being treated with the delicacy it needs to be. I think, you know, those voices are so great because we can now communicate with the developers themselves, right? We can communicate with the publishers themselves. And I think I know I'm on an Xbox podcast, but I think what Xbox has done specifically has just been so admirable. I feel like Xbox is no longer just this brand, and I've talked about this on the show, so I'm not just shilling right now, I promise. I think it's so great
It's like, I'll pay you after the show. No, I'm just kidding.
Pay me in Chipotle, like that's all we need. I love Chipotle. Shout out to Chipotle. But yeah, like the fact that Xbox just feels like almost like a human, a person that you can talk with, and it doesn't feel like it's a super corporate brand. Like I think that has been such a cool introduction, a cool new thing that we didn't have 10 years ago. It was like if you wanted to get in touch with a publisher or developer, you had to send like a stuffy email or, like a stuffy letter even, and then maybe you'd get a response. And even then it was all corporate-y mumbo jumbo. But now it's like you're able to have real conversations with the people who make your games and publish your games. And I think that's had a really profound impact on how those games are developed and launched and treated with their marketing. So very long-winded answer, but that's...
No, it's okay. I think you made a lot of really good points there. Like there are now like two-way paths of communication between developers and their communities, and the developers, like the game publishers and developers, are even like fostering these communities. Like Discord has been huge for the gaming community. Like, my team uses it every day. Like the Minecraft Discord in particular is just huge. But I think you also made a good point about just, I guess, like your experience, like coming up as like a woman in the gaming industry, especially when things were kind of, like games have been around for a long time, but in the last like 10, 15 years, just like the thought of gaming as an industry of its own has been becoming more and more like socially acceptable. And I think that every woman who works in gaming has experienced like they've been impacted by being a woman in gaming, whether it's for the positive or we've all had like really negative experiences too, right? Like every woman can relate to that feeling in gaming, but I think that it helps make us like, we kind of like band together a little bit more and try to help support each other. And I think it really contributes to the overall environment in the gaming community, which is really lovely to see. And so I love to see you and Andrea on the podcast, or the What's Good Games podcast. It's makes my heart happy. So,
oh, thank you. And I think that's one of the most fulfilling things is, we get letters from listeners, from fathers who are saying, we listen to the show, or I listen to the show with my daughter, or maybe my girlfriend or wife doesn't really like games that much, but she can relate just listening to two women talking about it. And I think that's really important. And it makes our hearts happy too, because that's what we want to do. We want to try to pave the way. So, when little girls grow up and they see this industry that they have, I'm not trying to like put myself on a pedestal. Like, I just want to be very clear. Okay. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do. But, you can look at the industry and be like, okay, who are some of the top influencers in the industry? Oh, there's women. Oh, they look like me. Okay, cool. This may be a welcoming space for me. And it's worth all the negative comments. It's worth all of the uphill battles we've had to fight if it can make it easier for others to get into this industry and feel accepted. And I think that's really what really drives us. So,
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. On a separate note, I'm really curious about, you used to, I assume, go to like all the same trade shows and conventions that I used to. I guess, like, I want to talk about how your role has changed in like the post, like this pandemic world that we're in. As someone who you were already kind of working from home most of the time, right?
Yeah. So I am in Washington, and Andrea and Steimer and Alexa were all in California. So I had my in-studio setup. It didn't look this, air quotes here, professional when I first started. Obviously, I just had the bare equipment or whatnot, but we've been doing this since 2017. So we've had time to upgrade. But so what I would typically do is I would fly to California, and about once or twice a month, actually, just to shoot some stuff in person. We had our page before Andrea and I both had our children. We had, monthly streams for our patrons, and we were able to do a lot more hands-on stuff. And then obviously the pandemic hit, and then we had kids, and our kids are like a week apart. And so, we didn't, I don't know how we managed to pull that off. Yeah, not even intentional, I swear. But yeah, it somehow worked out that way, which has, been good. And so as far as like how things have really changed post-pandemic, having our kids has obviously been like the number one huge thing, but we've been able to keep the show going. We did go on a 2.5-month maternity leave for obvious reasons, but besides that, we haven't missed an episode since we launched in 2017. And that's just because we have built the business around working from separate states. And yeah, I mean, it's just obviously I miss going to the trade shows. I'm sure you do too. It's
Yeah, I guess I've been talking to some of my coworkers about Gamescom a lot, and I feel like Gamescom is one of those ones where you either love it or you hate it. I particularly liked it. I really
I've
like
never
German
been to that
food
one.
and German beer. Oh,
Ah,
it's the one that everyone says is always like the most chaotic because I think it's the
yeah.
most people. But it was really cool. I went in 2019 and they actually had an Audi that would like drive you outside of the convention center, like if you needed to go from one hall to the other because it was just so
What?
crowded in the
Oh my
halls. Yeah.
God.
And so like I got to take this like I had this like guy drive me from like the business center to this other hall. And I was like, no big deal.
Oh, look at
Just
me.
getting chauffeured around. Yeah. But I guess what's the next trade show or convention that you're excited to potentially return to after the, everything is kind of quieted down?
Yeah. Oh God. You know what I really miss? I really miss E3. I know E3 is kind of a mixed bag right now, but like just the energy of that show was just unlike. And don't get me wrong, like I love PAX so much. That's my second favorite show, but there's just something so magical about E3. The press conferences, the hype behind them, the Bethesda, the Xbox, and
Big hype,
PlayStation, and yeah, back when Nintendo used to do theirs, like it was just such a fun time. You had the sunshine, and it was June. I don't know. I just loved it. They were long, long days, but since E3 is kind of up in the air right now, I would have to say, I guess PAX West. I mean, that's this summer, and yeah, I mean, hopefully, all goes well and we can get all together and like resume things mostly from a normal perspective, I guess. Like I just really want to go to a convention so bad, but I do have a 9-month-old at home. So that kind of makes things a little tricky because I can't just go and like, if I get sick, I get sick. Oh, well, but it's like now if I get sick, I bring it home to my kid, and that kind of just put your priorities in a different place,
Yeah.
But yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Have you found that having your daughter, son, have you still been able to play like a pretty good amount of games, like maybe when they're sleeping? No?
I'm crying. No, I mean, okay, so thankful. I mean, real talk. Like, I would be lying if I'm like, oh yeah, I'm playing just as much as I used to. No, there's just no way. But we're thankfully at a point now where he's on a pretty much like predictable schedule. He has a very predictable bedtime, and we're able to get like 5 to 6 hours to ourselves at night. So my husband also works from home, and so thankfully he and I are able to tag team. If he has calls or meetings, or if I have something I need to do, it's as simple as just like plopping the child in the respective parents' office. I know, right? Chaotic people call their children the child, but thankfully, if I do have like a major review copy, like Horizon Forbidden West, right, just came out not that long ago, I'd had the game for maybe 3 weeks before launch because it was a review for me. So thankfully, my husband put in overtime, right? And he was like, okay, I get it. Like, you need to play this so you can review it and talk about it on your show. So I was able to put in a good solid like 30 to 40 hours over the course of a few weeks, which is just like unheard of this day and age with
That's
me.
very nice.
Yeah. I mean, back before I had a kid, it was no problem. Yeah, I could do that, in a single week, but now, no. So yeah, I mean, I knew that was coming. That's okay. But what it actually has done, though, is it's helped me learn to prioritize which games I want to play more than any, because my time is so much more limited. And I have to give a huge shout out to every single person in there who puts pausable cutscenes in their games. You are doing the Lord's work. I can't tell you how many times.
I would have never thought about that. Yeah.
Oh, you do, and that's what I'm saying. It's like you don't think about that stuff, right? I never really appreciated them, but it never fails. Like, I'll be in the middle of a super intense cutscene, and my kid's like, "Hey, I want your attention," and then I can just pause it, and it's great. Otherwise, like, I can't watch it, and it makes me sad.
Oh yeah, wow. Things that you don't think about. I mean, I'll realize it eventually, but let's see. What are you playing these days? I mean, when you have time.
When I have time, yeah, I'm still working on Horizon Forbidden West. That game is massive, and I love it so much. So I'm playing that. I am also playing Grim Dawn. That just came out to, I think, Xbox just not that long ago, maybe a couple months ago. And that's a game that came out in 2016. And I love it so much because it reminds me of, like the old school ARPGs like Diablo and whatnot. Yeah. And I'm just having an absolute blast playing that with my husband co-op. So we play that after the kid goes to sleep. I'm also playing, unfortunately, another game I can't talk about right now. But yeah, I'm juggling a few different games. And so mostly Horizon and Grim Dawn right now. There's a bunch I really want to get into, but I just know like the free time I have is so limited.
That's
But
okay.
I just
do
I
what you
stare
can now.
longingly.
There's more exciting
I'll-
stuff coming out this year
I'll live
too. Yeah.
vicariously through you. Whatever you're playing, I'll just like ask, get the vicarious thrill.
Okay. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I guess last question is just, where can people find you online? Obviously, I mentioned the What's Good podcast. Anything else that you want to kind of close with or direct people to?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So you can find our show at what'sgoodgames.com. Again, we release every Friday at 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. Or you can find us on Twitter, what'sgood_games. You can follow me on Twitter at Blonde Nerd. And I would promote my other social channels, but I'm just not active there anymore. So I would just say like at Blonde Nerd on Twitter is probably your best bet.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again so much for joining. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you. This was fun. You're awesome.
Thank you to all three of my wonderful guests this week. This has been quite a big show for me personally, but I'm really excited to have the opportunity to host so many wonderful women who work in gaming. I even have my Women in Gaming t-shirt on this week. Well, not that I'm going to wear it all week, but anyway, so let's get into some news that you might have missed from this week and last week. So Forza Horizon 5 introduced American Sign Language and British Sign Language support for in-game cinematics, which is awesome. I know that the folks at Turn 10 and Playground Games really care about accessibility, so it's really great to see. We also have some exciting news on the flight simulator front. They recently joined Xbox Cloud Gaming, so now supported mobile phones, tablets, lower spec PCs can have that same awesome experience as on Xbox Series X and S. This is also good news because Flight Simulator will now be available for Xbox One for the first time, which is great. We also have some titles which recently came to Xbox Game Pass or are going to be coming this week. So now available, we have Far Changing Tides, which is an atmospheric vehicle adventure that takes you through solving puzzles, going through mysterious depths, and navigating some really tough weather in a post-apocalyptic world. And we also have Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13 that arrived this week. And coming in a couple of days, we have Lawn Mowing Simulator. I don't think I really need to explain that one. Young Souls, which is an RPG with a great story and a beautiful, quirky universe, very kind of cartoony, kind of reminds me of like Adventure Time art style, which is pretty sweet. And then we also have Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a third-person action-adventure game which follows Star-Lord himself going through the universe and, taking on some pretty explosive scenes. I'm actually pretty excited. Like, now that one's on Game Pass, I think I'm going to try that one out. Recently rewatched the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie the other day, and it was better than I remembered. So I'm going to hop back into that one. We also have some titles that are going to be leaving Xbox Game Pass March 15th, Nier Automata, Fogs, Torchlight 3, and The Surge 2. So if you wanted to play those, get it while you can. Lastly, there's also been an update to the Xbox app on PC. So we have the Xbox Insiders group who give us really good feedback, help test out upcoming features, and they did some great work and provided a lot of really helpful notes for the team. So folks now have the option to choose which folders their games get installed to. They can access files for select games, options to repair and move them, and also the ability to mod more games. So never a dull day on Xbox, always something happening, something coming and going. But yeah, I just want to say, obviously I still feel like I'm kind of new to the podcast. It's been a little less than a year since I've been on. But thank you if you made it this far for tuning in and, listening to a bunch of women talk about gaming. Like, I think there are some really awesome women in gaming, and I'm happy to be one of them. Shout out to the OG woman, my mom. Thanks for listening. But yeah, we'll be back next week with a regular show. So thanks, everyone. Bye.